Hello and welcome to Yapping and Yarn. So for this little series I want to do where I crochet and tell you guys about different things and talk about different things, I thought for the first little installment I'm going to talk about, as you saw from the title, my many moves. I have moved many times in my life. I've moved from state to state within the US. I've moved from country to country. I've even moved from city to city within different countries, but I'm not really going to focus on the city to city moves because they're not really that exciting. There's nothing much to them. I think a lot of us have gone through city to city moves. So I'm gonna start by trying to tell you guys each of the different moves that I've made. There's a total of 10 of them. I had my mom check. I wrote a list and I had 8 and she was like, no, there's 2 more, and so she added them to my list. So there's 10 moves. So I'm gonna tell you guys them, but in case I forget some, I'm going to put them up on screen and I'm gonna talk about some of them. The ones that happened when I was younger, I don't really remember as much, and I've just got a few little highlights here and there. But the more recent ones, the ones that have happened in the last 5 years or so, those ones I have a lot to say. And I could even go into detail about every country that I have lived in and my different experiences. So if you guys are curious about that, then definitely let me know. There's just so much I could say, but without further ado, let me tell you guys where I moved. So I was born in New York. I was born in Manhattan, New York at Beth Israel Hospital, and I lived in New York for 6 weeks before, okay, this is gonna be a bit hard to remember, but then I lived there for 6 weeks and I moved to Connecticut. From Connecticut, I moved to Canada. From Canada, I moved from Texas to Texas. From Texas, I moved to Oklahoma. From Oklahoma, I moved back to Texas. From Texas, I moved to Zimbabwe. To Zimbabwe, I moved to South Africa. From South Africa, I went to the United States. From the United States, I went back to South Africa. And from South Africa, I went to Chile, where I currently am right now. So those are all my different moves. So let's just start with the earliest ones. Like I said, I was born in New York, and my first move was from New York to Connecticut. I don't really remember that move. I was 6 weeks when I moved. I don't really remember New York. I remember, strangely enough, being born and then nothing after that point until 4 or 5, except for a little scattered memories that I have here and there. So I don't remember New York. I was a baby, but I remember little bits of Connecticut, just little bits. I think I went to this park with my dad and he bought me this book on the environment and how we need to take care of the environment and save the environment. And my mom tells me this story about how my dad got back and she was flabbergasted because he spent $40 on a book, and she's like, why are you spending $40 on a book for our daughter? I love that story. I think it's really cute. But other than that, I don't remember Connecticut. I love to visit there again. Oh, I do remember that in Connecticut there was this one Brussels sprouts place that I really like to eat at. It was a buffet of sorts. You get a little lunchbox and then you tell them the different things you want in it, kind of at Whole Foods, where they have the counters of different foods meats and salads and everything, and you can put it together and have kind of a bowl to eat. That's kind of what this place was in Connecticut, except I remember it was much smaller than that. It was quite small. They would have a few little tables, and I remember you walk into the building and then the counter is just right in front of you, and then there's chairs coming this way and then there's a door. I don't know how I remember that so specifically, but I do. And I remember that their Brussels sprouts were to die for. They were so good. My mom put me on those Brussels sprouts and she would low-key be like, I wonder what we're gonna eat today, and I'd be like, Brussels sprouts, me being 2 or 3. So I don't know what that place is called. My mom's forgotten what it was called. So I don't know. It's probably closed at this point, but that place was really good. And then from Connecticut to Canada. Canada, I remember that I did ice skating lessons and I was terrified. I never made it off the wall. I think I was 3. And I'm trying to think. Another thing I remember about Canada is I had a friend, we have a picture together, and she had red hair, and at my little nursery school or whatever, we had this class pet, this class like stuffed animal. It wasn't a real pet, it was a monkey. And so every week you would get to take the monkey home, and then when you came back to school you would tell different stories about like what you did with the monkey. They would make sure that you took care of the monkey. It was a really special thing. Like everyone wanted it to be their turn to take home the monkey. And I remember one week it was my turn to take home the monkey. I was pumped. I went over to this girl's house. We ate mac and cheese. She had the biggest blue eyes. And yeah, she was just like one of my closest friends at that time. I don't remember her name, unfortunately. I just have that memory. And yeah, I remember the steps leading up to her house seemed really big to me at the time. Like, probably because I was little. But yeah, they just seem ginormous to me. I don't remember anything else about Canada, if I'm gonna be so real with you. Then I moved from Canada to Texas. Sorry guys, I'm like getting over a cold, so if I take some water breaks, forgive me. I moved from, what was I saying? Canada to Texas. This was the first time moving to Texas. I don't really remember this move as much. I do remember that when I moved to Texas, my younger brother, my first other sibling, was born when I was 5 years old. So yeah, I'm 5 years older than my brother. And I remember that at our house, which I remember distinctly. We don't live there anymore, but like, I don't know if I want to put like a picture of our house. But anyway, it was so cute. I loved our house so much. Sometimes I like check it on like Google Earth, I think that's what it's called. I put this little picture on the fence. I was like, welcome home, little brother, I love you so much. And I wanted like a little sibling so much. Like, I asked my mom, like I specifically wanted a little brother because I thought that would be so cool, just like a boy and a girl or whatever. And I was so, this is a funny aside, but I was so oblivious. I thought that like to have a baby, like you had to buy baby seeds and like ingest them. It's embarrassing, but I was like 5 or 6. I didn't know where babies came from. And I remember like one time being like to my mom, so you got like the baby seeds, and she was like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And I was just like, I guess that's not how that works. Guess I'm wrong. But that's one of my core memories. I really like Texas. I have a lot of positive memories associated with Texas, especially the second time that I moved there. So moving on quickly, because my memory from that time is pretty trash. Like, I don't really remember that much. So then we moved from Texas to Oklahoma because my parents wanted to go to Bible school, and they found a Bible school there, and so they were like, "Aight, let's go there." So we lived in Oklahoma while they did Bible school. They like bought a house and everything. And at this point in Oklahoma was my first experience with public school, I'm pretty sure. Up to this point before, like, I'd been going to like preschools and nursery schools and whatnot, but in Oklahoma I started first grade, I'm pretty sure. And I went to public school, so I would take, you know, the yellow quintessential American school bus to school every day, you know, as a good little 6-year-old, 7-year-old does. And so most of the time the school bus went okay. It was fine. But I remember this one time the school bus was taking me and my friend home, well, everyone home, but I distinctly remember that my other friend was in the bus because he lived kind of like on the same street, not on the same street. This was my street, right? And then when you get to the end of the street, you can turn left or right, but there's houses right here. So this was our street, and then like this is his street. So his house was like here, and my house was somewhere on this street. And so I got off the school bus thinking like, this is where I live, right? I got off the school bus. That was not where I lived. That was not my house. And I realized at the last minute. So when I tell you I was sprinting back towards that bus, and I was like, this is not my house. I saw like random other people coming out of the house, and I was just like, because there were these two houses, like my house and this other house, they look so similar to me as a youngin'. Like, they look so similar. I would see houses as faces, like, you know, and the faces of these houses, they look the same. Like, they look like the same person to me, the same face to me, but they were not the same. That was the wrong house. So I got back on that bus. I was panicked. My heart rate was up. Missouri, it was up. And so I did not get off that bus. I had lost so much faith in myself. I was like, damn, I don't know where I live anymore. And so when it did come to my house, I was like, I think this is actually my house. But you know what? After thinking of that about the last house and it not actually being my house, I'm not gonna get out. So I didn't get out, and therefore my friend didn't get out, because I guess he relied on me getting out to tell where he should get out. So none of us ever got out, and the bus got full. I mean, not full, the opposite of full. It got empty. Like, every single person left the bus, and the driver's like, so where do you peeps live? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. And so then the driver at this point finally checks the like list of where every kid lives, and he's like, oh, you guys live back there, why didn't you get out? And we were just like, anyway, we got like dropped off like 2 hours late, I think. Both of our parents were like freaked out. They were like, we were about to call the police. And I was like, I'm sorry, I got lost because I got out of the wrong house. I think my mom felt bad for me, and if anything, she was pissed at like the bus driver and the whole busing system, because like she was like, when you get to the kids stop, like you can call out their name. Like, you have the list of where each of them lives. You can just like call out their name so that like you see that they get off the right place. Cause that's crazy. I don't want to talk about like specific stories for so long, because I want to kind of like talk about every single place that I've lived, but also I'm a yapper. This is why this is called Yapping and Yarn, because I'm a talk. But that was one experience I had there. And also at this public school, this is more of like a problem I have with public school. I had this teacher, I'm not gonna say her name, but I remember you, ma'am. I remember you. If you ever see my channel, yes, in Broken Arrow. What was the name of the school? What was the name of the school? Actually, I don't really remember what the name of the school was. But anyway, I had this teacher, and I'm pretty sure that like she hated me. Like, I don't really know. I think it's so weird when grown adults like hate children and have vendettas with children, because like, what? As an adult, why do you have like it out for me as like a 6-year-old, 7-year-old scared, timid little child? Because I'm very introverted and like shy. Have been that way ever since I was little, still that way. So yeah, anyway, she had it out for me. I was, I guess, like ahead in my class. Not trying to brag, like I was ahead. And so she would ask questions, and like she one time said, oh, can like anyone read this? And then I was like, yeah, I can read it. And she's like, Zoë-Rose, stop answering questions, like you need to let the other kids answer. And I was like, yeah, but like no one else like wanted to answer your question after like 2 minutes. So it's not like I was the first to raise my hand. If anything, I was probably usually the last to raise my hand. But she was like, no, like you're intimidating other kids by always answering, because like you're not supposed to know that. And so this teacher, she was just like really passive aggressive, and she would be like, you know, when the parent teacher conference comes around, I'm gonna tell your parents how badly behaved you were. I'm gonna tell her, I'm gonna tell them. And I would get so scared. And then when parent-teacher conference would come around, I'd be like, so what did she say to my parents? And they'd be like, oh, she said you're doing great. I'd be like, you liar, you liar. And also this one other black girl, the only other black girl in my class, her name was she had it out for me. We had a frenemy relationship, more bordering on the enemy side. She did not like me. So all of these different things, basically I switched out of that school and I started going to a private Christian school. I've stopped crocheting. It's kind of hard for my mouth and hands to work, but I'm gonna get back to crocheting because like, anyway, it was this private school. It was much better than the other school, and you know, I made some friends there, one of which who like I follow on Instagram. It's so weird, right? When you follow on Instagram people who you knew when you were like 6 or 7. Like I'm looking at this guy and he's like does like weightlifting, like he's huge now, crazy. Anyway, so eventually I moved from Oklahoma back to Texas, and I didn't really like keep any of my friendships except this one guy, and we would send letters and he would send letters. Anyway, then one day he like never responded to my letters ever again, and I was like, I think at some point before that he told me he was moving, so I don't know, guess he kind of forgot about me. Yeah, that was a moment. We moved back to Texas. At that point, my mom started homeschooling me. I think she started homeschooling me in like 4th grade, so I would go to different, like socialization things. Like there was this park day thing I would go to on Friday. There was this thing called which I would go to on Wednesdays, just to like be able to interact with other kids like a normal person. So I really enjoyed that like my life after that second move to Texas. Like that's one of the best times of my life, like in my memory. Like I really enjoyed it. Like I had friends, it was a bop, like yeah, it was vibey. My vocabulary is better than this, I promise you guys. It was fantastic. Like Austin is so nice. There's just so many different restaurants, so many things to do. You can go downtown, you can go to suburbs, and I remember just like at that young age having my whole life planned out for myself in my head of what it was going to be like in Austin. I was like, because in my neighborhood, the reason my parents picked that neighborhood was that it had a really good middle school and high school. So I guess my mom was like, I'm homeschooling her now, but maybe she'll switch over for like middle school or high school. And so my dad would take me to the high school, Westwood, and he would be like, this is where you're gonna go. And I'd be like, yeah, I was so excited to go to Westwood and just like live the American teen life. Like I thought teens were it. I thought teens had their lives together. Teens were the coolest thing ever to me. When I would see a teenager, I'd be like, wow, they're so cool. Now I'm a teenager, I'm like, they're not cool. But when I see like little kids being nice to me, it's like, I remember that. I remember thinking teens had it all together and just wanting to be one so much. And now at 17, I'm like, it's nothing like that. Not only do teens not have it together, but half of the adults don't have it together either. Like you think, oh, they're 25, they're 26, they have it together, like they're smart. A lot of adults aren't smart, and like not even in a mean way. I'm just saying that no one really has it as together as we think that they do at a younger age. Like a 12-year-old thinks like a 18-year-old has it together. 18 is like, oh, when I'm 27, 27 when I'm 40, and it goes on and on and on. But no one ever really has it as together as you think. I'm noticing that draw's open. It's kind of irking me. Anyway, we're gonna ignore that. But no one really has it as together as, you think that they do. But that time in Austin was great. That was where I made my two best friends. Well, 3 best friends in Texas. 2 of them were in the Austin area, and then the other one was in Houston. Anywho, how did we go from, the United States to Africa, specifically Zimbabwe and South Africa? How did we get there? Because every time I was like in Zim or South Africa, they'd be like, where'd you come from? I'm like, the US. They're like, why are you here? Like, are you mental? Like, why would you leave there to come here? Like, we want to go there. What's wrong with you? Like, this is the kind of things people would ask me. So obviously it wasn't my choice because I was a minor, so my parents wanted to move. Like, I kind of had to go along with their plans. Am I grateful for like the experiences and everything? Yeah, I am. There's so much I could say about, comparing my life to other people, which I've kind of gotten over that a lot, but there's just so much that I could say about that, and so much that, I've learned. But so how we got from the United States to Zimbabwe is my parents were like, I think that we should go there because I am African, I'm black, if you cannot tell. I am, Zimbabwean, Ghanaian, and a little South African actually. I only found that out recently. But those are like the countries that I'm from. That's where I'm from ethnically. And so I have been told of those countries, but one of the main reasons, my parents wanted to move is so that I could experience living in the places that I'm from, where my ancestors are from, where a lot of my family still is to this very day. So to get to see that family, to get to experience different culture, and to be able to be proud of where I'm from. Oh my gosh, I want to talk about this. There is this, how come when I lived in the United States, right, I only knew Africa I don't even like saying Africa because Africa's a big place. That's like saying like North America, like anyway. I only knew Africa through like, I'm gonna call it the world vision lens, which is essentially as Africa being a place where everyone is poor, everyone is needy, everyone is malnourished, everyone is suffering, everyone is impoverished, which I'm not saying that there's a lot of poverty, right? And people need help. They do. There is a lot of poverty. There is a lot of people struggling to get food and to live day to day in Africa. Like they're in the continent of Africa, like there is. But tell me why, like, I literally didn't realize, like, there's cars and there's, like, buildings and there's cities in Africa. Like, I feel like lots of Americans don't even know that. Like, no shade, I feel like they don't know that. They feel like Africa has an entire continent. It's just villages. It's just mud huts. It's just whatever they see because they only view Africa through the lens of aid. That's what it is. Like, if you think about Europe, you don't think of it through the lens of aid only, like, oh, we need to help them, like they're suffering. Like, sure, there's places in Europe where people are suffering. Sure, there's places in Asia where people are suffering. But I feel like people don't look at those continents and the countries within those continents only through a lens of aid. So they do for Africa. They do. And I did. Like, I thought people rode elephants to schools. Like, I didn't know that there were cars. And so going there, that was actually very eye-opening, especially South Africa, because there are lots of parts of South Africa that are built up. They're nice. Like, it's just like, go to like a city in the US, it's like the same in South Africa in some places. Obviously there's worse places where there are mud huts, there are like shacks and stuff, but you're always gonna have the areas where, you know, unfortunately they're not as nice and people, you know, aren't thriving. So yeah, so getting to realize that firsthand was really cool. And so I'm really glad I got to see that. I'm glad my parents were like, one of the reasons we need to go is so that you can, you know, see where you're from. Another reason is that, you know, I said my dad went to Bible school, so he's like a pastor, and he wanted to go there so that he could, you know, share the gospel in different churches and with different people and just in general. So that was one of his, you know, main reasons for wanting to go, as well as my mom. So that's another reason. Those are the two main reasons that we went there. So we first went to Zimbabwe, which is, you know, where both of my mom and dad were both born there. They met there and everything grew up there. So Zimbabwe, it was honestly like, I don't like to speak about it in a negative light, but I'm just gonna tell you the truth of like how I felt when I was there as a child. There's not really much to do there. It's pretty boring. It's not really developed. Harare is more developed. We lived in Bulawayo, and yeah, it wasn't impressive. It really wasn't impressive. Like, I couldn't see myself living there long term, and there's not that much opportunity there. Sure, you can be like happy and have a good life, but even like the city area of the place, it's like it wasn't very impressive. And like, I don't know, the main thing like I'm saying is there like wasn't much to do. There was like Hillside Dams, which was like a nice park, you know. There's very little entertainment. There's, yeah, very little of that. So I found myself kind of bored at times. Also in Zimbabwe, I was homeschooled, so I barely met like any people. I did meet a few people through like the orchestra that I did and like going to events every once in a while, but I was pretty lonely there. We did only live there for 6 months. Then we moved to South Africa, which was much nicer. We went there first for a really short term just to check it out and everything. And I was very impressed by South Africa, especially coming from Zimbabwe. Like, South Africa is more like the US. It was more urbanized in certain areas, more built up. It was more alive. There's more to do. Like, there's always something to do there. I live specifically in Johannesburg, but I've also visited, my neck is killing me, Cape Town and Durban. Probably driven through other provinces and other places during trips. I really love the beaches in Cape Town. I went on a trip to Cape Town for my 16th birthday. was fire. And so yeah, we moved from Zim to South Africa, and that was the first time. Yeah, we were just checking it out. We lived in like apartments and stuff, nothing too memorable from that time period, at least for me. Then we went back to the US for a little bit. It really wasn't that long, it was like a few months living there. And then after that we went back to South Africa. We moved there end of 2019, which is like because like 2020 started. I was like, okay, this is my new life, like let's get started. And then of course like COVID, like it happened to everyone, and so COVID happened and we couldn't really go anywhere, and so I was really lonely at this time. So I fully just put myself into my schoolwork because I had nothing else. I didn't have friends, I couldn't go anywhere and make friends, I didn't have any activities. I was fully cooped up in this house. The house was nice, but like nonetheless, so the only thing I could do was my schoolwork. And this is where my like academic, like being academically inclined started. Like I didn't really like school as much when I was younger, but at this point is when I was like, you know what, I want to actually do well at school. Like I want to go, like I didn't want to go to college at this point, but like I still wanted to do well in high school. And so that's what happened. So this was 2020, I was homeschooled. Then in 2021 I started going to this like tutor center, study center for people who do the Cambridge CIE curriculum and other curriculums as well, but that was the main one. And so I made friends there. It was really nice to be able to connect to people. We wore masks, like I'm pretty sure until like 2022 or 2023, I don't really remember. So that was a whole bit. And then like, oh, one person would get COVID and we're back to online school, blah blah blah. I got COVID once and sent my whole class online. I felt really bad about that. But it was there's a lot of stories I could tell about that school. But I did make like a lot of my dear friends from South Africa. I did meet them at that school. I grew a lot at that school. I don't know, I don't want to brag, but I actually, maybe it's a me problem. I was really invested in my studies to the point where people low-key thought I was weird. They're like, why do you care so much? And I kind of got a reputation as like being the nerd or whatever, so whatever. I didn't even want that reputation, it just kind of happened until, you know, smarter people came and I kind of lost the reputation, or I still had it, but they would focus on the other people, and that was kind of great. I was like, phew, because I felt like a lot of the time people would just talk to me because they wanted help with their schoolwork, which is, it is really sad. Like it does a number to your like self-confidence. Like, damn, like you're just asking how I am because you want like the answers. Like what? Like it's, or like you want help. Like yeah, that wasn't nice. And anyway, fast forwarding over a lot of that because this video is long and I can make like more specific videos if you guys want. Then we lived there for like 4 years. A lot happened. Like my mental health is probably the worst it's ever been in my life in South Africa. I went through so much, and my parents were like, you know what, it's time for us to move again. And I was like, I hope we go back to the States. I'm done with this new country stuff. Like I'm actually so done. Like I don't want this anymore. Like anyway, here I am in Chile now. We came here in January. It's been like 8 months. Crazy to think about that. And I'm gonna be here until I start college next year. I plan to go to the States. We'll see where I get in. We'll see what pans out. I don't have a plan for that. I still have to like finish high school and get my apps in, but until then I'm here in Chile. So far it's okay. I'm being homeschooled, so it's pretty lonely. Like I wish I went to school, but I'm like, at this point I'll be done with school in August, September, October, like 3 months. So what's the point of going to school now? But plans for after I go to school, we shall see. I need to learn Spanish because obviously they speak Spanish here. I'm in, so there's a lot to do, a lot I want to explore. I want to go to Valparaiso, and you know, there's a bunch of different places in this country to explore that I've never been to. So far so good. And yeah, a lot of people are surprised when they hear that I've moved so much. My parents, they're like, you know, we're young, why don't we take the risk, why don't we make the move? and it's led to kind of a crazy life, I'm not gonna lie, but I low-key love it. So if you guys have any questions or any thoughts, let me know down below. Also, what I've been working on, I probably should have like told you guys sooner, but I'm making this star blanket for my sister. So it looks so small, even though I've been working on it so much. Like, so that's what I was working on. And yeah, let me know any thoughts you guys have down below, any videos you want to see. I love chatting with you guys and interacting, and I will see you in my next video. And excuse me, love you guys so much.